Hey, it's Jeff at SeedCode. In previous videos in this blog series, we've been building a new module that we're adding into SeedCode Complete. We're calling it Supplies. So far we've built these buttons that bring us to new slide control panels here in the sidebar, and we can search our new table and find some of our sample data that we have here. So what's next is we need to map the objects on the second slide panel. This is the one that shows us some detail from the selected record. And then we also need the main layout that we'll go to when we click this button. It's also the layout we'd go to when we click this button, Go to Supplies. And it's going to look something like this. If I click Go to Contacts, we have a main layout here for the Contacts module. We need one for our new Supplies module. In fact, what we'll end up doing is duplicating this layout for items, since that's the module we are using as our model for the new Supplies module. Okay, so we need a few elements to support this functionality, starting with scripts. And I'm just going to show you what needs to happen in here, and then I'll pause the video and do these things because it could be a little time consuming and tedious, and then we'll come back and see everything working. Some of these folders contain specific scripts for each module, and here's one of them: Cancel Item Edit Menu. So we're going to duplicate that script, and then rename it, change the word item to supply. Same thing with navigation here. We've got Go to Inventory Item ID. We'll duplicate that and change it to Go to Supply ID. So those are individual scripts. Then we also we have an entire folder for each module here: projects, invoices, purchase orders, inventory. And if I option click on that arrow, you see that it has several subfolders, and there's a couple of dozen scripts within that folder that we'll need to rename. So what I can do is just duplicate this entire inventory scripts folder, rename it supplies, and then rename those scripts, remap all of the elements within them, fields and globals, variables and so forth, layouts, and then everything will work with the new module. So like I said, time consuming and maybe a little tedious, so I'll do that offline, come back and show you how everything's working. We will also need, on our relationships graph, we will need a table occurrence group similar to what you see here for these other modules. And again, I'll duplicate the one for items. We've got items, item globals, and then several related tables represented by these table occurrences to the right of items. So I'll just duplicate this whole group, remap everything to the appropriate tables, and then we'll use that on the new layout. Now, by the way, last week's blog post was all about explaining how the relationships graph in SeedCode Complete is organized and the different models that are in use on the graph. So we'll make sure there's a link to that post in this one so you can read up on that. And then, okay, I already mentioned, let's go into layout, manage layouts really quick. So it's going to be this layout, inventory and inventory list, that I duplicate to create the same corresponding layouts for our new module. And then, of course, it's just going to be about mapping the buttons and fields and conditional formatting and hide object when rules and parameters and field repetition values on that layout. And then once that's done, everything should work just fine. So I'm going to get to work on those things right now. I'll pause my video, and I'll come back and we'll make sure everything works. Okay, I'm back and everything is working. First thing I wanted to mention is that the script that runs when you click on a found item in this list, I had created in an earlier video, and I just forgot to show that happening in the last video when I was duplicating all the scripts. But that's this script called Supply Detail Home. Okay, so you'll see that in the last video. So we have this second slide panel here now that shows us some of the details from the item that we click on. And from here we can click to go to supply record. We can do the same thing down here, go to supplies, and we end up going to our new main layout for this supplies module. And so this took some time to create all the necessary elements, remap all the objects on these layouts, and get everything to work. But I followed the pattern based on the naming conventions, and it was not difficult. It was just a little time consuming, not as much time as my clock indicates. I did have some other work to do today. But let me mention a couple of things that I encountered that I didn't necessarily anticipate. One was that we need some new buttons, or a new button on this vertical sidebar on each module's layout. So here, for example, on the inventory layout, I needed a new button to go to the new supplies layout. Once I'm here on the new supplies layout, I need this blue button that indicates that that's where we are. But I can click this edit button from here. I can upload an image. I'm going to grab this random image that is definitely not a pen. I can create a new note here. This is not a pen. Save that, and that shows up here. All these other objects are mapped appropriately. There are conditional formatting rules, hide object when rules. There are, let's see, repetitions. There's a repeating field here. You got to get the right repetition to get that default image, and all those kinds of things that I'll outline in the written portion of this article. There's also, let's see, there was a custom menu that I didn't anticipate, but we ended up having to create a new one of those and talk about that in the article as well. And I think that's it for the video. So if you attempt this, creating a new module in SeedCode Complete, I think you'll be fine. You just follow along with these instructions, and then you can make this module whatever you like. Just follow the naming conventions and follow the patterns that you see, and it should work out well for you. So thanks for watching this video series, and we'll see you next time.